Hello everyone. Okay, let's talk about books today. This is a bit of an update and a video version of a blog post that I wrote several years ago. It's basically my top 5 recommendations of enameling books. So they're here. You'll say that's more than 5. That's 7. That's only because 2 of them are here in 2 languages, but we'll get to that. So, yeah, I had this blog post on my website, enamelworkshop.com, because people just keep on asking me, which ones do you recommend? And these are it. And now the update is, well, first, let's say that everyone is watching videos and not reading posts anymore. If you search anything on Google, videos first, and then you get ads, and then you get results. And another second reason is because this book, which was my number 1 recommendation, was in Spanish only, and now it exists in English. Disclaimer number 2, I published this book because it's my favorite, that's why. So update, this is the updated version. I will also make a blog post and put this video in there, maybe a transcript or whatever. Okay, so these are my favorite 5 books. There are others that I like, but if you have these 5, I think you're pretty set. So my number 1 recommendation, I have another camera here, let's put all these books away because otherwise it's too high of a pile. Okay, so this book, Esmaltar, La complicidad del fuego con el arte, was written by my mentor. So disclaimer number 3, 2 of the books I'm recommending are by my 2 mentors, Andreu Vilasís and Núria, López-Ribalta. I mean, you could say, hey, but you're biased. Of course I'm biased. I love them and I love the education I got. I have a diploma in enameling because in Barcelona and other cities in Spain you can get an official public school diploma for enameling. And this is actually because Andreu was given the opportunity to create a department of enamel in the applied art school, the design school. And this has existed now for decades, and that's why we have so many nice enamelists. So yes, I'm a member of the school. This is how I learned, and their books are in my enameling culture, let's say, and they are great, I think, and I recommend them and people like them. So yeah, disclaimer. So yes, this is Andreu's book. Was published in this version in 2008, and although it had existed in some version in Catalan originally from 1984, I think. And yeah, I kept on recommending it. If you speak Spanish at all, to read this book, and everyone that I recommended loved it. And we wanted it to exist in Spanish and English, of course, because I think it's a really important book. And it wasn't happening, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. And I did. It's come out very recently, this January 2023. Sadly, Andreu Vilasís, he passed away last year, so he couldn't hold in his hands, but he held up a printout and we already had an ISBN and he knew what was happening. So yeah, that was a bit sad, but here it is for you. So yeah, I translated it. I had help, of course. English is not my mother tongue, but I am an enamelist, which is also the technical translation sometimes can be a little tricky, and I got it proofread and technical edited and everything. And I also did the graphic design because I've also worked as a graphic designer for 5 years. So yeah, I think it's nice. So far it's already reached a lot of people and got a lot of positive feedback so far. I think it's a beautiful book and the content is just amazing. So this is a textbook. It's technical. You can go to the website. I will link on the video and on the blog post so you can actually see the first few pages. And importantly, you can check the table of contents. So you will see what's in there. Everything is in there. It's not structured as a step-by-step book. It's structured as like a dictionary, you know. Any problem you may have on your workshop, you go and check. It's your encyclopedia. It's your. I've kept consulting this book throughout ever since I got it, 2008. I always have it next to me, and I have to. I read the entire book many times, and I translate it, and I still check things. You know, it's it's the product of a lifetime of not only enameling but also teaching enameling. So there's also troubleshooting and all techniques, and I think this is a must-have, and that's why I edited it. I trust in it, so I really... Now, my number one recommendation is this one. Okay, my number two recommendation, as I mentioned, is Núria's book. And this one is, if you're a beginner, I recommend, of course, that you get Andreu's book because you will always use it. And it's so different, you know. But this one is more of a step-by-step book. It's a bit more a traditional kind of, you do this and then you do that. So I find it super helpful for that. Also, she's an art historian, Núria, an enamel historian, PhD, and she has a history section that is really good. This is it. So that's really recommended. You would say again another Spanish book. Well, sorry guys, but this one is available in English. So here it is. This was edited years ago. So actually I think they're starting kind of running out, but you can still find them. And it's a very nice translation and exactly the same layout. So really recommend it. It also exists in French, Italian, and Finnish, I believe. And I may be missing something. I got those links in the blog post. I will update that. So really, really good step-by-step process. Huh? But really, step 1, step 2, it's really to get started. There is also projects here by several other people, like there is a project by Andreu or two, and for different techniques, you know, this one, Núria is doing it, and all the people are credited there. There's also Pascual Miró, is also a co-author for all the historical parts and stuff. Really recommend it. And then my next recommendation is by Phil Barnes, who sadly also passed away a few years ago now. In fact, I asked his widow, if we could use some of his work as an example here in Andreu's book in this new edition, because it has a lot more photos than the first edition. And on the technique section, of course for champleve, which is what Phil was specialized on, engraving, champleve. We have it here somewhere. Here. So I asked Linda Barnes if we could use these images from his book, because it's just amazing work. And it very nicely he illustrates what Andreu was mentioning here about engraving. This is the traditional way of doing it, is engraving it and then enameling it and fill. And there is a very strong tradition in the UK of people doing that, which has been a bit lost in many other countries. And this book is about that, so it's really about champleve. Although any enamelist will learn something here. It's a really great book. Also very nicely laid out, and photographs. Super inspirational, because this work is amazing. And it's sometimes a different way to do things. If you're gonna work on silver, this is a book for you, because it really goes into detail of how to do that. And not only on fine silver. There's a myth that you can only enamel on fine silver. That's not true. In the UK they use a lot Britannia silver, which is a bit more silver than sterling, but still with sterling you can also enamel. I've done a lot of that too, production, in the beginning of my career. So super recommended book. Also he explains everything about engraving, not just enameling, because it's totally necessary for this type of work. Super book. My fourth recommendation is the classic from the US by Linda Darty. It's a really nice book. Has a lot of inspiration, lots of photos from work of lots of different people, many different styles, which is really it shows that enamel has no limits. Enamel is another form of expression, and you can use it in any style for any kind of work, conceptual, figurative, material experimentation, anything. So there are lots of inspiration in here, and the technical aspects are also pretty tight. So it's a great book, a classic. Maybe you already have it. Really nice. And then my fifth is an older book. So this is by Margaret Seeler, and this was published in 60s, or let me see if it says here somewhere, 1969. And it's a great book. I love her way of explaining things. It's of course out of print, but I found you can make a search like on Ape Books or something, and sometimes on Amazon they show up, and some used bookstores online that you can just set up a search and it sends you emails when they come in. And that's how I found it, because sometimes they go for a lot of money. You wait until one reasonably priced one comes up. This should be re-edited. I think it's a great book. The most of the book is black and white. Then there are a few color photos, not even. I think there are somewhere. You know, when they put one signature, it's called, of color photos, like in the middle or somewhere, or two sections. So yeah, you don't come here for the fully illustrated, but I found it. I read it not too long ago. Actually, I think Mary Ray said it was her favorite book, and she learned from her directly in some workshop. And I really wanted to read it, and I found it refreshing. You know, it's different for me, and you can see that she was really logical and smart and figured things out on her own, and really interesting book. So I really recommend it. This one actually smells a bit moldy. That's the problem sometimes. You get a cheap one, but I had to put it in sodium bicarbonate. That helped. I had it in a bag with sodium bicarbonate for months. Okay, so those are my 5 recommendations. I'm sure another enamelist will have another 5 or 10 or whatever recommendations, but these are my favorites. And I hope a little bit of the reason why I consider them my favorites. So you can go into the description, and I will put links to everything. Some of them are affiliate, so it doesn't cost you anything. Of course, the one I edited, you support my cause of having this book made reality. And that's it for now. See you around. Hope you liked it.